Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more notable names in Pacific Islander and Asian American history. As you may notice, there is no camera picture of me because my webcam decided to go and shit to bed. So, yeah. Before we get into the video, if you wish to donate to the channel, I have two ways to do so. I have a Patreon, which is month to month, monthly donations. I also have a Coffee account, which can do the same, but it also allows you to donate one-time donations. Please do not donate if you're in financial straits. It's hard enough on everybody as it is out there. If you can afford to do so and you want to do so, thank you. I do appreciate it. Um, Yeah, because it's just me, myself, and I that do these videos. But with that said, let's jump into the video here. We are looking at Ibrahim Choudry. I talk for those of our men who in factory and field, in all sections of American industry, work side by side with their fellow American workers to strengthen the industrial framework of this country. Ibrahim Choudry, in a letter for testimony during the U.S. Congressional Committee on Immigration and Naturalization hearings in 1945. So, yeah. He was a community organizer in New York who worked across racial and religious lines to build coalitions between Bangladeshi immigrants and Puerto Rican and black communities. He escaped a British crackdown over his political activities in East Bengal and settled in New York City in the 1920s, where he and his fellow East Bengalis initiated numerous community organizations, which included pooling their money to help open restaurants and small businesses, starting organizations to empower their communities, and offering social support for new immigrants who moved in. In the book Bengali, Harlem, and the Lost Histories of South Asian America, Choudry's son and daughter, Noor and Layla, recall his impact as a community leader by helping ex-seamen with immigration problems. Went from the New York area hospital to one New York area hospital to the next, meeting with staff and asking them to call him whenever anyone was admitted with the surnames Maya, Ula, Udin, or Ali. And Bengali countrymen would call him on the phone and he would run off to help. If someone was sick if someone died, he would make their funeral arrangements for them. So yeah, someone who was very important with the South Asian immigrants, particularly in, working in life and everything. He wanted to try to make their lives better. And when you think of South Asian, remember, we're not talking East Asian, which is your Japan and Korea and China. We're talking South Asia. India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, along that Indian subcontinent there. But yeah. So that's immigrants we are looking at. Originally that was from the Howard Zinn Education Project. This is from exhibits.stanford.education. Abraham Choudry was one of many Indian sailors who jumped ship in the United States in search of fair wages in the early 1920s, originally from Bengal, a province that is located today between India and Bangladesh. He was committed to anti-colonial nationalist. He was a anti-colonial nationalist. In 1938, when he was 32 years old, he married Christine Aguilera, a young Puerto Rican immigrant who had recently arrived in New York City. He returned to South Asia to participate in the independence movement in the early 1940s, but quickly returned to New York City, where he became an activist for the local South Asian Muslim community. The couple had 2 children together and settled down in East Harlem. Choudry grew increasingly active in community activism throughout the 1940s, and he was the first manager of the British Merchant Sailors Club for Indian seamen in Midtown Manhattan, which included a mess hall, recreation room, and prayer hall during World War II, according to historian Vivek Bald. By the end of its first year, it would have served 66,221 soldiers, a total of 198,200 meals. In addition to his official managerial duties, he often penned letters for illiterate Indian soldiers. His son, Noor Choudry, described his father as the guy to call when there was a problem. Give me a second here. I hate this damn thing. There we go. In 1944, while still managing the club and running across New York City to help with immigration problems, lead religious services, or represent the community to consular officials, Choudry also became involved in the India Association for American Citizenship. The organization lobbied Congress to grant United States citizenship to the thousands of former sailors, farm and industrial laborers, and other working-class South Asians who had settled in the U.S. in the 1910s and 1920s. In the early 1940s, a member of the South Asians proposed different pathways to naturalization, basically giving immigrants citizenship. Remember, there was still a pushback against Asians, but things are changing. We've had the Asian Exclusion Act for so long, and we're hitting the end of World War II, so at a 1945 hearing in front of the Committee on Immigration and Naturalization, J.J. Singh, a wealthy businessman, sought naturalization for the South Asians who had been living and working in the U.S. for decades. However, Singh also proposed creating a quota that would allow 100 South Asians per year to naturalize. Of these, 175 would be highly skilled, educated immigrants. Writing against Singh, Choudry penned a letter that was introduced as testimony to the same hearing. He would write, "I speak for the many. I am not speaking for the transient element, the student, the businessman, the lecturer, the interpreter of India's past and present, whose interest and ties in this country are temporary, the man or woman whose roots are in India and eventually return home. I talk for those of us who, by our work and by our sweat and by our blood, have helped build fighting industrial America today. I talk for those of our men who, in factory and field and all sections of American industry, work side by side with their fellow American workers to strengthen the industrial framework of this country. We have married here. Our children have been born here. I speak for such as myself, for those of my brothers who work in the factories of the East and in Detroit. I speak for the workers and farmers of my community whose lives have been bound to this country's destiny for 23 years or longer. I speak for these men who, while they themselves have no rights under Oriental exclusion, have seen their sons go off to war these last years to fight for a democracy which they, their fathers, could not themselves enjoy. I speak for men who expect to die in the country to which they have given their best years. We simply ask you for justice, American justice." So yeah, as you can see, it's like, look, not everybody is these highly educated people, but we give our life, our heart, our blood, our sweat to this nation. We just want to be accepted as citizens as well. You know, what many Americans proclaimed made the difference for Americans in the past. There's always been this racist streak in American history that's ugly as all get out, man. Choudry's vision of a South Asian laboring class not only diverted from Singh's suggestion of admitting only highly educated, highly skilled South Asians, but also appealed to the committee in the language of American values of hard work, dedication, and perhaps most importantly, justice. Ultimately, Singh's pathway of citizenship would triumph over Choudry's, and in 1946, President Truman signed the Luce-Celler Act, which permitted South Asian nationals already residing in the U.S., around 2,500 to 3,000, to become American citizens. It also instituted a quota that allowed 100 South Asians to immigrate to the U.S. every year. This act is often linked to the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, known as the Hart-Celler Act, which favored scientists, engineers, and business people. The focus on these highly skilled, highly educated groups had contributed to the model minority myth, and for many years, erase the legacy of the working class South Asian Americans like Choudry, who raised his family in Harlem, advocated for working class South Asians, and dedicated himself to building community in the United States. So, yeah. And he's kind of an overlooked character because I had to dig to find even these two sources about him. One of the individuals that's just not talked about often in American history. But honestly, we need to realize all of what's happened, the good and the bad, that makes America. Because it's not just, oh, happy, smiley things. No, there is some disturbing things that have really made the portrayal of what America is. So, yeah. But we'll go ahead and end that episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite their sources, and it can't just be a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing sources or a bunch of anecdotes slapped together to make a source. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.